Hey, beautifuls. This little video today is going to be about a brief overview of human design. First, I want to start just a little bit with the entry point of why I love to use this system and what it is that Inner-Cartography is kind of sort of about. Inner-Cartography began as my journey in my self-exploration to really delving into what am I here for? What am I doing? What is my inner mapping, my inner map of why I'm here and what I can do with what I'm given? It first started off with my shadow work. I was looking to understand the varying different aspects of what my emotions were bringing up for me. I couldn't accept that life was just about suffering. And neither could I grok that I was here just to be of service. There had to be pleasure in the service and service in the serving, and it needed to come from a really good place. So I spent a lot of time looking at and learning about different systems. And the one that I found that I love the most, one of them, there's a few. One of them is a system called human design. It's based off of systems that I also really love. It's based off astrology. It's based off, which before you roll your eyes and say, hey, that's astrology, I don't know, it's kind of woo-woo. So I look at astrology as being, it's a system of mathematics, and it's a system of looking at things that are bigger than us. Longitude, latitude, and time are the three things that give you your astrological chart. It's also the three things that give you your human design chart. It's also the three things that give you your Gen Key chart. Specifically, those longitude, latitude, and time, which when you look at that on a mechanical level, you are looking at measurements, as close of a measurement as we can of spectrums, right? Circles, things orbiting us, large energy movements moving around the sky that were present when we began to show up in the world, either in the smallest stage in conception to the largest stage as in birth. And there's many different other events that we often like to track. When powerful things are coming up, I'll often pull a chart and just look at the dynamics. So here's the thing. These different pieces of information that these charts give me, they are not absolutes. They're entry points. Entry points for understanding something about what might be going on that gives my brain, rather than being like hung out way up here like, oh, all the possibilities or the fears or the unknowns, it gives me something where I can kind of line up my blocks in my thinking and go, okay, this is what I'm going to work with. It gives me a trajectory. I don't believe any of these systems are complete in and of themselves, and even together I do not believe that they completely span every possible nuance. But my goodness, over 500 variables times itself gives you a lot of possibilities. So I do a lot of reverse engineering. I'll look at systems and I'll reverse understanding them. Human design is made up of I Ching, of astrology, the Kabbalah-based vectors, and looking at the system of chakras. I'm going to show you a chart. This is kind of what a human design chart looks like. This is a blank version. And I'm working on making my own artistic piece around this. And I just kind of want to go through and just give you a brief overview of what these different systems in this represent. I'm not even going to talk about types. I'm not going to talk about profiles just yet. I'm just going to talk about what is what on here. What you're looking at is an analogy of the vectors from top to bottom. So this down here is the root. This up here is the head. Okay, you got the shadowy figure in the background. The head starts up here. This is the center for ideas, for inspirations, for doubts. It's a very quick, fast kind of energy that it's a pressure. It's a pressure center. This is a pressure center, and this is a pressure center, where we have energy that comes up through and comes down. So we've got, whether that's spirit messagings, whether that's all of this mental pressure is coming down. And then we've got the root pressure. The root down here is the drive. It is, it's driven by a pulse sensation, and it's another pressure center. It is also all about pressure. The pressure to do, the pressure to become, the pressure to ... It's not about what it's gonna pressurize. It's the fact that it is a pressure system. Okay? As we move through these different stages through here, we've got the Ajna, which is down here. Let me show this so you can see it. This is the Ajna. This is the center for processing, for analysis, for the breakdown. It's also a system of awareness. We have a spirit hearing that comes through here. We have a cognitive understanding of when we hear things that people are sharing with us, it gives us more information about who they are that they might not actually be saying. That kind of thing is coming from that Ajna process, which is right in through here in the body system. Sometimes I will know it's coming. It's coming on in a sense because my teeth will kind of ache, and there's this pressure when it's telling me that something needs to be broken down into understanding. This next system here is the throat. And I say system, these are called centers. Each one of these 9 centers is associated with an element in the body system that's not only associated with a body element, but also associated with a mechanical function. This is the throat, where all energy is trying to gather to come out. Voice, throat, communication, manifestation, these are all the things that allow us to be more than just human. If we can't speak and share our ideas and our concepts, we don't get to grow, we only get to maintain. This is the G center down here. This center is responsible for the hidden aspects of your heart. It is your love, your sense of direction, your sense of self. You've also got the will over here. This is the heart. This is how we love, how we show and make manifest what is going to happen. This is your saying, I'm gonna do this, or I am this, and then it makes you have an action to result. This is the sacral center down here, the center of life force energy. This is the emotional center, known as the solar plexus, which comes in waves. They say from hope to pain, these waves go. I think it's also a measure of density. It's also a measure of the layers of things that we can feel. Over here is the spleen, the center for survival, the center for intuition. This you kind of feel in your body, in those little goosebump prickles that go through your skin. It's part of your limbic system. It's through the whole of your body. It's the hairs that stand up on end. And it's also that just deep knowing that something is either wrong or something needs to be changed. And this down here we talked about earlier on, which is the root. Pressure is moving through here and up, and from here down, trying to get into this voice. So if you pull your own chart and you look and you see what you have colored in, that is what you are defined in. So let me take a quick moment and talk about definition versus being open. Think of each of these centers kind of like a garden hose, okay? The ones that are white are wide open. They have an aperture that it just takes in everything. It amplifies. It is the place of deep wisdoms. It is also the place where your deepest conditionings will settle in and take up root as something that you have learned. Where you are defined in your chart where it's colored, those centers are colored, you are here to have a consistency in that. I'm having a little war in my brain as I want to invite you to an experimental process. When you hear me talk about things in an absolute way, they aren't absolute. None of them are absolute. None of them are dogmatic. They are simply a way of thinking and considering it for a moment. So I invite you to your own experiment where you pull your own charts. If it suits you, if this is something where you are called to, I'm a person who very much has to be called. It's not very easy for me to sit in front of this video screen, or rather it's hard for me to get in front of the video screen and talk about something in particular because I wait for the call. And I'm cool with waiting for the call. That's just now how I do things. It makes life so much more easy to wait for that call. So I call you and invite you, if you so choose to answer it, to an experiment where you get to look at where there is a difference between your consistency in life and your openness in life. The consistency is where you can put your weight down and say, I'm going to make decisions from these places. For example, one of my most powerful lessons was when I began to study this solar plexus, the emotional center. This emotional center, when it is wide open, I learned that I am here to feel all the feels, and I'm here to feel them 10 times more than what they actually are. And that when I'm feeling feels, 95% of the time they are not mine. I'm feeling someone else's feels, or I'm feeling something else's potential responses that I'm picking up and then amplifying. I don't actually feel that way at all. That was mind-blowing to me. What was even more powerful was when I took on the experiment of not making choices from my emotions. Human design suggested that I should not be making decisions from my emotions because they would always leave me astray because I'm making decisions on things that aren't mine. And so when I experimented with doing that and encountering myself in these sometimes deep and devastating emotional places, to learn to have deep compassion for myself. Deep compassion. I am being acted on by an outside source in that moment, and I need to not look at myself in a place of judgment. In fact, I need to not make decisions. I need to not do anything that is going to try to fix it. Just let it be. It's where I learned to go do my dishes. Cry while I'm doing my dishes. Go to the garden. Go take a walk. Go walk and listen and cry with nature. Go to the willow womb room and return back to sort of a beginning place where everything felt very simple. And as soon as I began to honor my emotions, because for me, I'm emotionally undefined, I'm emotionally open, I'm here to experience it, I'm here to be ridden by it, I'm here to amplify it, I'm here to be wise in it when I stop holding on to the emotions that I absorb. A note for the other side of folks who are emotionally defined. Oh my goodness, beautifuls, I love you so much. That is your work. To consistently be in a place of having the emotions be your authority. I had to learn that that wasn't the case for me. And for those who are emotionally defined, it is automatically your authority. Emotional authority trumps all of the other authorities. And there is multiple systems of authority in your body. You can have more than emotional authority. You could have a sacral authority, a will authority, a G-center authority. And how I have learned to do it is you have your primary, the one you listen to first, and then you look at the order to know which authorities you listen to within your body. It can be so complex and it can be so simple. And both of those things can be equal amounts of work. For those who are only defined in like 2 to 3 or 4 centers, it's a lot of deconditioning. And for those who have 7, 8 centers defined, that is a lot of stepping up, deconditioning, and using those in a easeful way. The more complex we are, the more draining we can be, the less we get. Because if we're draining to other people and they don't want to be around us, then we end up lonely, and nobody wants that either. We all have to find a deep appreciation for who we are on the deep inside of ourselves. When I first encountered this system, I hated it. I was like, who do you think you are telling me I'm a hermit and I'm only supposed to do this sort of thing and telling me I'm limited. I can do anything. When I revisited a couple years later, I was like, oh, yeah, that's my open will speaking, trying to prove myself. When I realized I have nothing to prove. I am not here to prove myself. I am not here to have willpower. What? Yeah, I'm not here to have willpower. Those who have an open will. This is the open will center right here, this little tiny triangle. If that is not colored in on your particular chart, I invite you to the experiment of embracing the fact that you're not here to have a will. You're not here to have willpower. You're here to be wise when it comes to those things, but not necessarily to be consistent 100% of the time, on par with it all. Because what if you aren't? And what if you're trying to make yourself be something that you aren't? Isn't that a little bit like trying to break yourself against a stone wall? Not helpful. Not in my book. So I'll show you some of my my brief fun things. These are different pieces of paper I have made to be able to do chart work with people and to send something home with them that's a worksheet. So you're seeing lots of scribbles over top of the thing that I made and printed. This system goes through so many beautiful aspects that all give flavors to the different senses of mechanics that are happening. You've got energy types and their strategies. There's 5 different energy types. You've got manifesting generator, which is basically like a motor to a mouth. They're here to talk and get things done through speaking. You have peer generators who are more just here to do, and they talk too, but they're not here about all of the talking. They're here to just sort of shut up and do. I'm one of those. You got projectors who are here to absorb and see all of the pieces and all of the possibilities and then be like, okay, here's how we lay out this railroad track. And they just start putting pieces together, but they have to wait for invitation. So when we find our projector people, we need to know that they need invitation. And those are the ones that we want to say, hey, you got a minute? Would you mind looking at my project and seeing what you see and seeing how I can put this together better? You also have manifestors. Manifestors are here to just do. They got a vision in their head and they need to go out and do. They need to learn to inform as they go along. And they need to learn to visualize and share that visualization with other people so that they're not the only one doing something. We have different awareness centers. We have different motor centers, different authority centers. And so in each one of these, we can look at where our energy comes from. We can look at, if I've got 3 motors lined up, but I can't sleep at night when I haven't had a busy day, I can know, oh, hey, I need to wear out my motors. I need to use my life force energy. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I'm going to be too wound up and have all of this energy sort of trapped in my body and vibrating away. I have to use it every day. Otherwise, I won't be able to find my rest. And knowing where your motor centers are in your body is really important. Let me give you for motors, we've got a solar plexus, the emotional center is a motor. We've got the sacral, the life force center as a motor. We have the root, that drive, that pulse, that's another motor. And then this willpower up here is also another motor. So if you look at your own chart and you see what it is that's colored in, you'll see what you have as a consistency. All right, I think I'm going to pause there. There is so much more. There's gates and there's channels and there's shadows and pairing partners and different aspects that you can look at to see where you might not already have an understanding. It's a tool to bring you out of your, I'm pissed off about this particular story, and a place to begin. All right, so look forward to next time and talk to you guys soon.